I'm going to start off by embarrassing Jo a little bit by telling you her life history. No, only joking. I won't tell you the life history. That would take far too long. But I will give you some brief snapshots of what Jo has done so far with her life. So at the moment, Jo's working full-time for a Spanish state school as part of the MECD British Council Bilingual Project. She's the author of Macmillan. Okay, you might want to just sort of pause, maybe get a pen and paper. There's quite a few courses here to list of Jo's, so bear with me. The list does end. So she's the author of Macmillan Natural and Social Science 1 and 2, Magic Phonics. She's the co-author of Play with Patch and Patch the Puppy 1 and 2, and Give Me 5 levels 1 to 4. That's it. You can put your pens down now. So she's also been involved in a local training program for bilingual schools since it began in 2009. And she's given training courses on synthetic phonics, CLIL, and also arts and crafts all over the world. So moving on to today's webinar, Jo is going to be talking to you. This is the second time she's done it, and she ran it earlier today, and it is absolutely packed. It's got so much there for you. I'm very excited for you to see this. So she's going to be looking at some ways you can help your learners catch up if they've not been able to access the same materials and lessons as others might have. So I think that's enough of my voice for this afternoon. I'm going to pass you over to Jo. Enjoy, everybody.
Well, thanks very much, Will, for that fabulous introduction. It's great to be here once again, doing a webinar, and it's lovely to see people from so many different places all over everywhere. I'm sorry that I can't come and visit any of you this year to do any talks there, but it's great to be here and to see so many people. So let's get started, because as Will said, there's quite a lot to get through today. As we mentioned at the beginning, over the last few months, we have found ourselves in a situation where we've been teaching remotely using a variety of different digital tools. And what we may have found is that children from the same age group may have had different access to this online learning. And this, we found, creates a gap between those who have had remote access to a teacher and those who haven't. So what I'm going to look at today are some practical ways to ensure that our activities are accessible to all our pupils, and in turn help children bridge that gap so that no learner gets left behind. So, as Will mentioned at the beginning, I work in a primary school in Spain. I teach year 1, and well, I taught year 1 last year, and I had 3 groups of year 1 children. And over the lockdown period, I moved all my teaching moved online, as will have probably happened to many of you. The school was closed, so there was no face-to-face teaching at all. In one of the classes, all of the children attended the online sessions most of the time, and the majority of the children handed in all of the tasks. But in the other 2 groups, for a variety of different reasons, between 15 and 20% of the children either didn't attend the online classes at all or attended them very rarely. And then another thing that I found was that there are children, on the other hand, that excelled with this new environment. There were some shy children who were very reluctant to participate in class, but they had support from a parent sitting next to them in the online classes, and the parent could hear that they were whispering the answer and were encouraging them to participate. So some of the shy children had extra support and started to come out of their shells. Others were really inspired by the format, and they sent through amazing videos of experiments. Some of them even gave a tour of their house. So what I found was that the gap was widening at both ends. So once school starts again next week, I'm going to find some children who have become internet superstars and others who have missed whole chunks of the curriculum. They've had no contact at all with English for 6 months. And all of these children are in the same class. So this is a little bit about my history of what's been going on in my classes. What about you? Thinking about your own situation, what percentage would you say of your own classes do you think has fallen behind because of this lockdown situation? You can just type through in the chat box as you're doing now. 30%, 20%. Okay, so we're going to find that, some people are only 5%, up as high as 40%. So there's going to be a proportion as high as 70% in some cases of children who are going to need extra support because they've fallen behind. Well, I saw a survey in June. This was the Commissioner's Office released this survey in June, stating that in England, almost 60% of under 12s and almost half of teenagers had no online learning at all during lockdown. And only 3 out of 5 children actually submitted the work set for them. We may find that children have done the work and that they're going to bombard us with it once we get back into the classroom, or we may find that they have become quite disconnected. Let's have a look at some of the reasons then. There are many factors, many different factors that can cause this gap in learning in the classroom. One of them is a lack of device. Some families may have more than one child and not enough devices to go around. They may have poor internet connection or no access to broadband at all. Some children may have felt less motivated by the online format. It's much more difficult to achieve a personal connection, and they may miss the support given by their peers in the classroom. Personality. I mentioned that some of my shy children had become inspired by the help that they were receiving at home, but this wasn't always the case. Other shy children may find it uncomfortable and they may not have wanted to even put their camera on to participate in the lessons. Environmental interference. We're not in the classroom. We don't really have any control at all over what's going on. Children may have found it difficult to concentrate. Maybe a brother or a sister was having an online lesson simultaneously without using any headphones. Parents speaking on the phone. The television might have been on. They may have just had a baby. The baby may have been crying or someone was singing to it. So lots of things going on in the background that may have distracted children so they were not able to give a full 100% to what was going on. So once we get back to school, at the beginning of the school year, it's crucial for us to create a comfortable atmosphere for the whole group to learn in. We should prompt our pupils to take responsibility for behaviour and attitude, regardless of whether they're in class or at home, learning remotely. And one idea at the start of the school year is to make a class contract. So let's have a look at this one. This is an example of a typical class contract for Year 1 students that will be working face-to-face. Something like this would be perfect if we managed to get into our classrooms. But if we're teaching online, we need to adapt this contract and we need to take into account the new situation. So over to you once again. What do you think would be a good idea to include in the online contract for your own learners? And this is quite personal. So while you're typing through, we can just reflect, because as somebody's saying, some of the children don't like to open the camera, so we might not want to say you must have your camera on. We do want the children to take turns to either speak or to type. That's very important. Being honest and not cheating, not having a big list of things behind you, maybe not having your mum whisper the answer. I think perhaps younger children are less likely to cheat. Unmute the sound when they're asked, and to participate. We want them to participate, but we need them to participate in an orderly fashion. I like this one from Esther Ruth. She's saying working in a quiet place, if possible. And that isn't always going to be possible, but it is important for parents and children to find a place for the child to be able to work and say, right, this is the place that I'm always going to have my lesson. So I'm going to show you some of the ideas that I've got. Don't eat or drink. Now, this morning, we weren't all in agreement on that. I'm going to try with that one, because I did find that children were coming along. They were bringing snacks as if they were in the cinema. And I was wanting to ask them questions, but finding that I couldn't ask them a question because their mouth was full. So I am going to suggest, perhaps to the parents, that their children should have their breakfast before the class and not eat or drink. I'm going to ask them to mute their microphones at the beginning, simply because of that background noise. That all starts to reverberate. So if there's a television on in one house, someone else has got a whole collection of birds, all of that is going to be very distracting. We're going to ask them to listen, to be on time, and to put their hands up to participate as if we were in class. So I think it's important to set out some rules, but perhaps as always, it's a good idea to create the contract together, particularly if you've got slightly older children. Discuss it with them and agree on what the contract is going to be, rather than laying down the law. You can brainstorm the ideas all together. So let's think then about how we can bridge that gap once we've set down our ground rules. We've established the guidelines for attitude and behaviour, and let's think about the strategies that we can incorporate to into our lessons to help out those that are in danger of being left behind. So I'm going to just go through the list of things that I'm hoping to have time to get through today. Collaboration and discussion benefit all learners all across the scale. So the more we can encourage our children to work together, the better. If we're teaching remotely, we need to think about using breakout rooms for pupils to work in pairs and small groups. And if we're in the classroom, we may need to take into account social distancing. That depends on everybody's situation. Scaffolding learning, we can add support for our students in order to enhance their learning by building on previous knowledge when they're learning new skills. Strategies can range from making a text more accessible by predicting ideas before reading, to providing word banks and sentence beginnings to help children to formulate ideas when we're asking them to write. If we're using a text, accessibility can be increased if the information is presented in a more visual way, perhaps with a diagram or an illustration. After introducing any new vocabulary, we can maybe play any number of different games to reinforce and to consolidate that vocabulary. The more we play, the more exposure weaker students will have to the new language, and they will be dealing with it in a fun, motivating way, which is going to serve to increase their confidence as well. Mime, gesture and acting out will also benefit all the pupils in the class, with the additional advantage of giving the extra support to those who need it. We should also consider recycling and repetition. These give children the opportunity to understand and remember new vocabulary and grammar, supporting the transfer from short to long-term memory. And communication games designed to help pupils use language in real situations can help to reinforce key concepts in a way that's accessible to all. And we could also consider introducing some strategies for learning to learn. We can do this maybe as an alternative approach to creating differentiated worksheets for weaker students. We can include the strategies as we go along. And finally, if we get time, we'll be looking at projects, working cooperatively to achieve a common goal, such as video, a display, or even a class book. This can allow children of all levels and abilities to be involved in a final product. Projects give children the opportunity to develop their speaking skills in a structured way, building autonomy and promoting creativity. So now I'd like to start to have a look at each of those ideas in a little bit more detail. Cooperative learning helps to develop a positive classroom environment, even if we're working remotely. Pupils have a greater sense of belonging and learn to understand, value and respect all the members of the group. Cooperative tasks require students to take an active part in the activity itself, leading to increased self-confidence. If we are back in the classroom, fingers crossed, face to face with the children, we can incorporate cooperative learning easily. Children can just turn to a partner and begin. If we're still remote teaching, we can enable breakout rooms. This is a feature that some of you will probably be already familiar with. You can decide, we're all in the room to start off with, and then you can decide on the number of breakout rooms, and the students are automatically allocated, or you can form the pairs or groups yourself. So in class, we can establish a talk partner routine right from the beginning. If we're asking a question, encourage children to discuss the answer with a partner before putting their hand up to give the answer to the group. This promotes confidence amongst struggling students. Children may be unsure of an answer, and discussing it with the partner, that can help them to clarify their ideas and give them that confidence to put their hand up and participate. We can also ensure by doing this that the children are actively engaged in the lesson and that they remain focused on the task at hand. Nobody gets left out. If we rely solely on a raised hands approach, we often find that it's the same few children that are putting their hands up all the time. And if we continue to ask only these children, then any low achievers will continue to fall further and further behind, losing confidence and motivation. So, after discussing the question with the partner, the teacher can then choose any pair to give their ideas, allowing the less confident child the opportunity to speak. In addition, if we manage to pair a confident child with a weaker child, one who's looking to bridge the gap, then the stronger child may take on the role of helper, which can have a positive effect on both learners. Older pupils can read and answer comprehension questions, maybe about a story, working together to find the answers before being called upon. In this example that you can see here from Give Me 5 Level 4, pupils have enjoyed a story about activities that they can do on a rainy day. They can ask and answer the comprehension questions with their talk partner. This is an ideal activity to do online in a breakout room. So we look at the story all together and then send out the children to answer the questions with their partner before discussing those questions all together. So we can see that using the talk partner strategy can help pupils work together and to help each other. We've seen how we can work on answering questions and looking at comprehension questions after a story. But let's think about any other type of activities that we could use this strategy for. So there's a list here of a few different activities. Have a quick look, and I want you to say, which of these activities do you think that pupils could do with their talk partner, either in class or in a breakout room? And you may also have some of your own suggestions as well that I can add to my list later on. I think yes, brainstorming ideas, all of them. You're very quick off the mark. I think yes, we can do all of them. You could even add, they can, indeed. They can do all of these activities. They can certainly act out a dialogue, practice reading a dialogue together. They can use their book and take turns, or maybe a document that you've sent through before the class. They can do a questionnaire or a quiz. Again, this could be something that's in their book or something that you sent. They can do any kind of communication game. Any kind of a barrier game that we would play in the classroom will work really well in a breakout room. So if we've got in the classroom, we would be looking at maybe putting a book or some kind of barrier between the children. In a breakout room, children are not even sitting together, so they can't see each other's cards. So it's ideal. It's an ideal activity. Any kind of gap fill type of activity like that. They could describe a picture. They can describe a scene. This could be something that's in their book, or again, an image that you've shared with them. One of the first things that you said, that yes, we could brainstorm ideas. This is going to help children gain confidence, sharing those ideas before speaking in front of the whole group. And we also said, yes, they can read a text together. This is something that we will probably be doing in class. With my age group, children will be pointing with their finger while the other one learns. Well, we can't do that, but we could perhaps encourage them to follow the text with their finger, and when they get to the full stop, their partner takes over. Or if we're acting out a story, then they can each take on a role. So once we've taught the pupils to work together with their talk partner, we can use this strategy for any number of tasks, ranging from the ones that you've seen here to inventing a new verse for a song, or perhaps practicing a tongue twister if you're looking at any particular type of pronunciation. Or they might go and rank their favourite toy, animal, or even hobby. Another useful cooperative strategy is the think, pair, share. The difference between this and the previous strategy is that learners listen to the question and they're given time to think individually before going into the breakout room to discuss it with their partner and share the ideas. This extra thinking time can be especially beneficial for those students that are looking to bridge the gap, because they're going to need a little bit more time to process their response. Four corners is another great activity. This one, again, allows learners to brainstorm ideas in groups, and it gives less confident learners the opportunity to hear ideas and then share them with the whole class. But hang on a minute, you're going to say there aren't any corners if we're remote teaching. Again, we can send our pupils into the breakout rooms. So you can see here, I'm looking at reviewing animal actions that we'll have been looking at. So we're going to divide our group into 4 and enable 4 breakout rooms. You can name the breakout rooms if you want, but in this case, I'm just going to go with numbers. So in breakout room number 1, all the pupils in that breakout room will be brainstorming animals that can fly, in 2, animals that can run, in 3, animals that can swim, and in 4, animals that can jump. Set a time limit, probably a minute is plenty. You can type into the breakout room yourself. When you type in, you can broadcast it to all of the rooms and tell the children maybe 30 seconds left. And then when you close the room, the timer will start to count down so that pupils can see how much time is left. And then once the time is over, all the pupils will return back into the main room at the same time. So what you can see here with this activity is that a child that, if you said, tell me an animal that can fly, that maybe wasn't able to think of an animal at first, has had that opportunity to listen to others in the breakout room. Returning to the main group, they can relay that information, the information that they've heard, giving them the opportunity to participate actively in the discussion rather than just passively, as we might have found before. You may think, well, wait a minute, what about if we send the children into the breakout room? How are we going to control how are we going to make sure that they're good to do the activity in English? Well, we should provide some kind of sentence structure so that pupils know what it is that they're supposed to be saying. It should be a revision activity, and you've got the opportunity of hopping in and out of the different breakout rooms to keep an eye on everybody and make sure that they are in fact using English. So this type of activity, the 4 corners, we can adapt it to all kinds of different topics. Just off the top of your head, can you think of any topics that you might be able to adapt this activity to? I've got a few here. It doesn't have to be 4, you can have 3 corners. We could do it with colours, that's right, just any colour. Food, different types of food. Sports, that's right. We can do it with maybe a healthy meal. What can you have for breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks? We can talk about maybe different animals. Can you name mammals, reptiles, birds, insects? Months and the seasons, I love it. So you can go into one and say which months belong to spring, summer, autumn and winter. Maybe even things that we can do in different rooms of the house. We can use it for all kinds of things. The weather in the seasons, I love it. So what is the weather like in spring? Or even what can you wear? I think that the possibilities are endless. Furniture in different rooms, fantastic. I'm going to move on because I can see that you've got some fabulous ideas, but I've only managed to get through the first point. So I'm going to move on to scaffolding learning. After such a long period without any contact with English, up to 6 months in some cases, we may find that some of our students are struggling with comprehension, struggling to understand a text or a story. So we can introduce strategies for making this more accessible. When we work on a reading comprehension, we can introduce pre-reading activities to predict content from the title, maybe from the images, so that before the pupils read the story, they've already got an idea of what it's going to be about. This story here is taken from Give Me 5 Level 2, and it's from the unit about animals. Now you can see the title of the story is The Mysterious Egg. So before we read the story, well, we're not going to read the story today because we don't have time, but before the children read the story, The Mysterious Egg, I want you to think, what animal do you think is going to be in the mysterious egg? What ideas have you got? You can see the egg there. Everybody's looking at it. Oh, a dinosaur. That'd be a really exciting story. It could be a duck, a goose, a dragon. Fantastic. That'd be really thrilling for the children. An ostrich, any kind of bird, yes. Anything else? Let's see. Someone said elephant this morning as well. A turtle. So we've moved away there from bird. Let's see if anyone gets it. I just let you into a secret. This morning, no one managed to guess the animal. Any animal which excites them. Well, that's what they're going to suggest. It could be a snake. It could be a dinosaur. It could be a lizard. No one's guessed it yet. Let's see. 5 more seconds. A frog with a crown. Oh, fabulous. Some really fabulous ideas, but all sadly wrong. The correct answer is a penguin. So, doing this type of activity where we're Pokemon, where we are asking the children to give ideas and then basically telling them the answer, is giving them the opportunity to think about the story. We've given away the end of the story, but never mind. It's going to help them with the comprehension. It's going to help them focus on the story. So it's a good idea. If pupils are reading the text on paper, use the audio version as well for them to listen at the same time, because quite often we find that oral comprehension may be slightly ahead of reading comprehension with young learners. So we are giving those children that are falling behind an additional tool to help with understanding. If possible, use an animated version. What I found remote teaching was that every time I put a video, my children's little faces were glued to the screen, and they found it very motivating to watch the video format of the story. Moving on to writing. If we want our pupils to write a text themselves, we need to make sure that the activity is carefully staged so that all the learners can follow. This example here is a postcard, and it's taken from Give Me 5 Level 1. We chose a postcard because it's something that's perhaps more typical in the UK, and maybe other children from different countries might not be familiar, so we can introduce them to this format here. So with this one, what we're going to do is to initially show the model postcard. We've got the picture, which we will ask them to describe. You can see here in this activity, some keywords are given. So we will perhaps give them a language structure and say, there is, or there are. Look at the picture and say, what things are there in this picture? There is a lake. There isn't a playground. So they can describe the postcard first and then read a model postcard. Again, listening to the audio at the same time will help any weaker pupils. Once we're clear about the format, we can perhaps complete a very guided gap fill of the postcard. So again, they're getting familiar with that format. But then the idea is for the pupils to be able to write a postcard on their own. So we need some scaffolding. We need some sentence beginnings. So what you can see here, this is actually a photo of my classroom. So this year, sadly, I wasn't able to teach the postcard activity from my classroom, but I did still do it. So I'll show you how in a minute. So you can see that I've still given some scaffolding for them to be able to do it. We've got the beginning. Who do we write to? Dear Mum and Dad. And then everybody chose a place. They drew their postcard. We brainstormed all the different places, and that's what you can see there on the blue sack. Then we looked at activities that we can do in each place. I can, and we brainstormed activities to the yellow sack. And then we British love to talk about the weather. So of course we must talk about the weather on our postcard, and that's what's on the red sack. So the children were given a lot of guidance. They chose a different setting, and then they each wrote their postcard. These are the postcards that were completed during lockdown, and I had to have everything on slides. So all of these were done, they were beautiful. Parents took the time to send all the postcards through, and obviously help was given. Now, we're looking at helping learners who are falling behind. So in this case, oh, sorry, there's another example. In this case, what I did was I used my blog. And in the blog, I set out everything that the children had seen in the class, all of the stages. What is a postcard? Here are some ideas. Everything that we brainstormed online in our class, then went onto the blog. So again, the children didn't have their actual word sacks, but they had different like word mats, if you like, so they could see and choose a weather, choose an activity. So what we had there was that children had that much needed extra support, and they could return to the blog as many times as they wanted and use that as support for their own writing. So in the postcard activity there, you've seen that there is a lot of visual support. There are word sacks, sentence beginning, and also help with the format of the text. We can also use visual support to reinforce routines and activities that we're doing in class. Any children that may have missed out on remote learning, they may have forgotten the classroom routines, and they may have forgotten simple instructions. I'm thinking about my groups. Some of the children, they're very small, they've only had 1 year of primary, and they've missed out on 6 months. So we can use task cards to show the different stages of the lesson, and here illustrate our instructions. If we do manage to get into the classroom, we can maybe leave our task cards in a prominent place to illustrate our instructions. We're going to do this activity, circle. We can leave our task card on the board so that pupils can follow. This is going to help everybody to remain on track. If we're teaching remotely, we can add this visual support to our slides so that pupils can again follow along with what we're doing. Now, some of the pupils may have had vocabulary input during the lockdown period, but we said that others may not. So these children who didn't have any input, they're going to need more time to assimilate new key vocabulary. So what we can do is add games. Now, not just any random game, a game that's associated with what we are teaching. So I'm going to have a look at some games in a minute with you. And these games, we can use them as warmers, fillers, or even coolers. And this type of games that we're going to look at, these are going to, they're fun for the whole class, but they're going to provide that much needed support for those children who are in danger of being left behind. So I'm going to show you, this is a list of some of my favorites. I'm sure you'll be familiar with some of them, but I'm going to demonstrate a couple. Okay, so the first one that we can see here is called silent words. Now, just a quick warning, I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm not going to speak. You're going to see my mouth moving, but it doesn't mean that the connection has died. So I'll just get my flashcards. So what we can do, obviously, there isn't a lot of context at the moment. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a clue. I'm going to hold my flashcard, I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to silently say the object that I can see. And you have to guess. But you don't know what topic we've been working on, so I'm going to give you a clue. We've been working on our neighborhood. Okay, so the two things that I'm looking at are things that we can find in our neighborhood. Are you ready? This is the first one. You've got to pay a lot of attention. Now, traffic lights, amazing. You got it on the first go. Well done. Was it the clue that I gave you that helps? Let's do another one. You can't be that good. This is the next one. Ready? Can you get the second one? Let's see how good you are. I'm going to do it again, more slowly. It could be motorcycle, but it's not. It's 2 words. I'm going to give you a clue. Zebra crossing. Mo, well done. It's a zebra crossing, okay? So the clue is the fact that it's always something that we're working on. We're reviewing the vocabulary from our unit, but we're not saying the word. Children have got to really pay a lot of attention. So the next one is slowly, slowly, which is just simply, excuse me while I grab my flashcards, we just slowly reveal a picture from behind a book, a piece of paper, or another flashcard. So this time I am not going to tell you the topic. You have to have a look. We can't do this with the mask. That is true, but we can do it if we're remote teaching. If we're remote teaching, we can play the silent words, but we're not going to be able to play that in the classroom. Good point. So, what do you think this is? Slowly, slowly. It's sky at the moment. We're in our landscapes topic. It's the beach. Okay, good. So we slowly reveal our flashcard and the children will guess it. Okay, we've also got, let me have a look. Continuing with our landscapes theme, we can do a quick flash. Okay, this one is great because children have really got to pay attention, otherwise they miss it. Ready? Oh, now if there's a glitch in your internet, it's going to be stuck. Well, it's too easy. Forest, let's try again. Ready? Oh, maybe that was too quick. Some kind of a mountain. I'll do it again. The beach. It was a cliff. Yes, we can see the cliff there. Maybe I did that too quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. The next one is thumbs up. And with this one, I'm just going to show you the picture of my children playing. What we do here is to check understanding. We're going to show a picture and we will state what it is. If it's true, thumbs up, and if it's false, thumbs down. Okay, so if you put your thumbs up, I can't see you, but you can type it in the box. These are eyes. This is a nose. Okay, so we can do this if we're remote learning, because then we can watch the children do it and we don't need to have everybody's microphones on. If we've got our flashcards, what we can do, I've got all my unit flashcards and I've put them on the same slide. We can look at them and then we can just take one away. I like to play this with Realia normally, with a little table, but I've prepared here a slide for you to see. So I'm going to remove one of them, and it's just a slide that I've prepared. So in the next slide, one of the animals is missing. Which one's missing? You have to decide which one is missing now. The goat. Oh, the goat is still there. It's the sheep. Well done. Well done, Oscar's got it. It's the sheep. We can use this type of grid to also play I Spy, particularly if we are remote learning. I spy with my little eye something beginning with F. I'm going to give you, there you go, frog. So with this one, you can see that I've covered up the names of the animals so that it's not too easy, but we can reveal them if we want to. Now, this is my all-time favorite game is Odd One Out. I can't do a webinar without talking about Odd One Out. So if you've seen me before, apologies for repetition. It's my favorite game. On the one hand, we are reinforcing vocabulary from the set that we are working on. And we're also working on vocabulary from a previous set. But on the other hand, we are working on thinking skills. Everybody's zooming away with the scooter. Great. This type of game is accessible to all the children at both ends of the scale. So children at the lower end of the scale will be saying immediately, scooter, scooter, but they've had to use their thinking skills. But those at the higher end of the scale, we can ask them to explain why. Why is the scooter the odd one out? Because the cat, the cow, and the bird are animals, and the scooter is a toy. Some people may suggest all kinds of different, somebody said it's the bird because the k phoneme is not here, I like it. And that is also a correct answer. So for odd one out, I don't like to have a wrong answer unless it's really wrong. If the children can justify it, then that's great. So it's a game that we can play and we can bring out the best of both ends of the scale. We can also play Guess Which One I'm Thinking Of. Here, I've included the words as well to give extra support to those who need it. So in this case, we've got all of the animals and we will say to the class, guess which one I'm thinking of. Now, there are two ways of playing this game. They just have to guess which one you're thinking of. So with here, what I can just choose one of the animals and the children have to ask questions. Is it the cat? No. Is it the frog? No. Is it the goat? No. And if you want to cheat, you can wait until everybody's reviewed all of the animals. Or better, if you've got the flashcards that you can show when they've picked it. Or you can give some clues. Which one am I thinking of? It's got 4 legs and it's green. It's the frog again. So, the last game that I want to look at is a word dictation. So this time, this would be for slightly older children that we want to be working on spelling perhaps. Choose a word from a lexical set. Start to spell the word, say the letters, and pupils are listening to you, and as soon as they know what word it is, they're going to type it in the chat box or write it down. Okay, so let's see how fast you are. You've been very fast with all the activities so far. Let's see. The words that I'm going to demonstrate, they're all adjectives of character. Okay, so ready? Q, U, I, E, quiet. Good. Okay, so we had 4 letters for that clue. Let's try another one. Let's see how fast you are. The next word, L, A. Fantastic. Some of you have got it there after only 2 letters. Right, and the last one, ready? K. Let's see if we can get it after only 1. Well done. Some people have got that after only 1. So this is a game, it can create a little bit of motivation, and then the children have got to write all those words down. Let's move on. Action games. We're working with younger learners. So younger learners very often learn best when they can manipulate something or move around. We can take advantage of the fact they're at home because they've got a bit more space around them. We've been looking at animals. We looked at animal actions. So we would probably, if we were working with animals, I'm just going to tell you what they are. We would include some of the actions for our animals, as we saw in the 4 corners game earlier on. Fly, swim, run, okay? So what we would do is just simply play an action game. First of all, receptively. Teacher says the word and pupils do the action, okay? So fly. You all have to fly at home. Now, I can't see you, so I don't know, but I trust you, you teachers. I'm sure you're all flapping. Swim. So the children will do the action. And then, so this is, it's receptive. We say the word and they do it. And then we swap over. We will do the action and then they would say the word. They can also join in with us. So let's see if we can get this one. Climb. Okay, so pretty easy. So we're changing from receptive to productive. In addition to this, using actions in songs increases understanding of vocabulary, motivates all learners to join in. In this song, again, it comes from the animals unit. The children will be singing about animals and their actions and using the animal actions that they've been practicing. Now, I'm going to spare your ears today. I'm not going to sing the song, but we just look at the first verse and think about the actions. It's a good idea as well to ask the children what actions they would like to do, and then they feel more involved. I love cats. Cats can fly. No, no, no. Cats can't fly. Cats can climb. Okay, so we would exaggerate all the actions and then the children will join in. Once the learners are familiar with the song, we can take it out of its original context and use it to review vocabulary or grammar at the beginning of the lesson or as a way to end the lesson. Other ways of integrating physical interaction can be acting out a dialogue, as we mentioned before, holding up some kind of cards, or writing a response on a whiteboard. Now, here you can see something that we can only really do if we are in class. And this is an activity that I love. Just type out your sentence, cut it up, and pupils have to put those bits together to make the sentence. The act of physically building new sentences and talking through those sentences as they're being built, this can help our learners to understand the concepts being explored and give them a greater understanding of the sentence structure, particularly again for those children who need a little bit more time and they're not going to be able to do that straight away. Recycling. Any children who have missed out on remote learning need to be given extra opportunity to reactivate any language that they learned before. So it's important that we recycle so that we can build on that knowledge that they had but may have forgotten. So this little activity here is taken from Give Me Five once again. It's from the activity book. In the activity book, every page has a footer at the bottom, and each footer recycles vocabulary from the previous unit. So you can see here are the animals that we've been working on, but by the time we get to these footers, we'll have finished the animals unit and we'll have moved on to the next unit. So that language doesn't get forgotten. This type of activity helps to support that all-important transfer from short to long-term memory. We can also use brain breaks, which serve a dual purpose, to give learners a break from sitting in front of the computer, but also to review and reinforce any actions and instructions. Online, it's important to give children a bit of a break. It doesn't mean go away and do something, but break, stop what we're doing and move around a little bit. If you've been working on animal actions, use that. Any children who missed sessions, they've got visual support of all their friends joining in with the activity and motivation to join in because it's fun. And we can also make a songs cube to recycle our favourite songs. So these can be songs from any previous units. We just need to stick them on some kind of a box, throw the box and sing the song. So we're always recycling something that we knew from before. Okay, let's have a quick look now at communication games, and then I will look at some strategies for learning to learn, and that will be all we've got time for, apart from your questions. So we said that communicative methodology, that was really important. We need children to have fun. So these games can range from pair work questionnaires. We talked about this earlier on, but what you can see here is a list. Now, you will be getting this PowerPoint later on, so you'll be able to have a look at the list calmly with a bit more time. But basically, any kind of game that we can do with a partner, we can do in a breakout room, and this is going to help our pupils to just regain that confidence and motivation. Okay, this is just a very simple guessing game. Here, pupils have got cards. They would cut up their cards before the session. So we would have to say, right, tomorrow, in tomorrow's lesson, online lesson, we will be using the cards. So everyone cuts out their cards, and then they can describe and guess what each other's favourite toy is. Okay, we can also make a spinner to practice our animal actions. This is in fact 2 spinners. Children would cut them out and put a pencil in the middle, and they spin each one. So we've got an animal, maybe the cat, and a verb, climb. And the pupils need to make a sentence, practicing the grammar from the unit. Cats can climb. Spin again. Horse, fly. Horses can't fly. So they would use this to make their sentences, and they can do that together in a breakout room. Okay, so just the last thing that I'm going to talk about very quickly, we're going to look at some strategies for learning to learn. Okay, so one thing that I find to be very important is to encourage pupils to reflect on their own learning, maybe at the end of the unit or at the end of each lesson. This is a really visual way of allowing us as teachers to assess progress. So pupils would create their own traffic lights, colouring the different lights, red, orange and green or yellow, and they will decorate, personalise their traffic lights. And then at the end of the lesson, we will choose a positive statement, an I can statement, something about the lesson. I can remember animal actions. I can sing the song. So pupils would then touch the green light if they feel confident. If they feel slightly confident, they're going to touch the yellow light. And if they don't really feel confident, they're going to touch the red light. And this is something for us that we can use. We can use it when we pair our pupils, so we can pair confident with less confident children, and we can immediately see. So if we can see that many of the children are pointing to the red light, then we can see, well, we need to spend a little bit more time on this activity. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look at 1 or 2 more learning to learn strategies, and then we'll see if there's any time for questions. Another one here is to ask pupils to write a definition for new vocabulary. Particularly, this works particularly well with slightly older children. So if we give them a word, like for example, carnivore, they might write down carnivores eat meat, and they would write that in their notebook. We can also encourage them to make a picture dictionary, particularly for younger children. They can draw a picture next to the new word. And finally, we need to encourage them to ask questions if they get stuck. In class, all around the blackboard, we will probably have all kinds of different signs with these questions. How do you spell? What does that mean? Working remotely, we can ask them to make their own. Maybe stick them on lolly sticks so that they can hold them up, or put some post-its around their work area, so that we're encouraging them to take responsibility and ask when they are unsure of an answer. And as I suspected, I haven't really got time to talk about projects today, and that is all we've got time for. And basically, I would just like to thank everyone for giving up the last days of their summer holiday to attend this webinar. And it's been really nice to interact with you a little bit. And thanks very much for coming.